don't know. Hello, good evening, and welcome along to the latest Forza Italian football podcast. We're three again. I'm still here, Conor Clancy, your host. Vito Doria is still here, but returning, Kev Pogorzelski. Kev, you look very orange.
That's the lighting. It's not completely my tan, but thank you.
Did you get a tan?
I got a bit of colour. I'm always away, as the wife tells me, so I've always got a bit of colour anyway. Thankfully.
Yeah, you are always away, but where were you this time? I can't even remember.
I went to the FIFA Club World Cup in Doha, and then actually had a holiday for a few weeks in the Philippines.
That was about a month ago, was it not?
I got back from the Philippines this time last week.
Okay, and the Club World Cup was?
It started the 16th of December. So yeah, I've been away about a month.
It's a nice holiday for you, Kev. I wish we could all jet off like that, but it is what it is.
My winter break.
Welcome back anyway, Kev. We're not disappointed to see you.
Okay.
Vito, thanks for rejoining us again this week.
Yes, it's good to have the trio back again. And yeah, just a bit of good news, bit of bad news. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix of events. So yeah, happy to keep going on the pod.
Bad news, obviously, being Kev's return. If we've all finished watching baffling clips from Sky Sports News, let's get to the Serie A action, shall we? We'll start at the top. There are new league leaders. Juventus are clear at the top. They beat Roma 2-1 at the Stadio Olimpico. And Kev, this game was over in about, 8 minutes?
Yeah, I kind of hoped for a little bit more of a fight from Roma, considering Lazio had won the day before and they want to keep in touch with their neighbours. But some awful defending meant that it was largely over within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was quite disappointing, right? But I guess they kept it at 2. They did get something of a comeback. Diego Perotti scored a penalty in the second half, Vito. And did you ever think that Roma were going to overcome that 2-goal deficit?
Not with great confidence, to be honest, because just Roma, they're that kind of team. They're good on their day, but sometimes they might have a bit of a off day. And also, we'll probably talk a bit more about this, is that they lost Nicolo Zaniolo in the first half, and he's a player that provides a bit of spark and an extra inventiveness, although they do have a few other flair players. Zaniolo in particular, I think, is someone with his grace and inventiveness. He's going to leave a hole in that Roma team for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you brought him up, Vito, so I'll stick with you for it. He is a big loss, right? Because they do have other creative players, but they haven't got another like him. He's arguably the most important player in their attacking unit.
Even at his age, at 20 years old, I think that's a valid point. You have someone like Lorenzo Pellegrini, who's an effective player, but I think he's someone that provides more drive, effectiveness, and in a way directiveness as well, directness. So someone like Zaniolo, he's someone that can sort of work through all the tighter areas. He's not someone that can just go in one direction. He'll mix things up. And before he injured his knee, that was an incredible solo run that he went on. So to be stopped by Rabiot in that moment, and then you'd think it's just a trip and stuff, but then he kept on screaming in agony, and he looked really distraught. So yeah, I think Roma, to sustain a fight for a Champions League spot, it's now just become tougher because of his absence.
Yeah, the run was amazing as well. The second best run of the Serie A weekend, I would argue, after a amazing one that Gervinho went on tonight, but no, less of that. Zaniolo is obviously a really important player, not only for Roma, but also for Italy. And Kev, I'm sorry to make you speak about international football, but Zaniolo's mother was speaking today about how Nicolo is aiming to be back for the Euros. He wants to play, but he's ruptured his ACL. Even if he's back, he's not going to be at his best, and he's a huge loss for Italy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as terrible as it sounds, he's very young, and for fear of damaging him further in the future, to rush him back for that, I think they need to just take it on the chin and just find alternatives, because it would be amazing considering the injury now if he got back in time for the Euros.
You do think that if he's fit, and even if he plays, 3 games for Roma before the end of the season, Mancini will probably select him just in the off chance that, I don't know, he could come on an extra time in a knockout game and do something, because Italy don't have anyone else who can do what he does.
Yeah, they do have the benefit of being one of the multi-hosts, that they're going to be based in Rome as well. So they've not got to sort of fly him halfway around the continent to play games. So if he's got his home comforts, if they've got the setup to assist with his recovery, then there's a reason why you'd also maybe include him in the squad, because you haven't got the travelling involved.
No, it's a fair point, and the games are in Rome too, so he actually doesn't even have to leave his house, probably. But that's quite convenient. So fingers crossed, Nicola Zaniolo can get back as soon as possible. Someone else who damaged their ACL, not to the same extent, it's not ruptured, but he will also require surgery, is Mary Demiral for Juve. He scored the opening goal after just 3 minutes, and he was excellent. People our very own Dov Schiavone actually was saying that he's now better than De Ligt, and he's become so important for them. I think he's only played in 7 Serie A games this season or something like that, Vito, but in the last month, his importance has just grown and grown and grown.
In the last few rounds, he essentially took the starting berth of De Ligt. I suppose that with the huge transfer fee for De Ligt and the great Champions League campaign he had with Ajax last season, there was probably that expectation or desire to see De Ligt play more regularly. But although De Ligt's had some good games, he's had his fair share of bad ones as well and made a few bad errors along the way. Demiral is only about a year or 2 older, well, actually just 1 year, but he looks like he's got more experience on him and has been far more composed. So for Juve to lose him at this stage is not ideal, especially when you consider that Giorgio Chiellini, he's probably going to still be out for a little bit longer too.
Kev, Cristiano Ronaldo scored a penalty. The big man, delivering in big games. Best player in the world.
By who?
by him. And
I don't know. I think I came back, or it was just as I was coming back, where he got his first Serie A hat trick the other weekend. I don't know. The whole PR machine for Serie A and Juve goes into a bit of overdrive when we're talking about Ronaldo. And I think it's kind of stems from this long-standing rivalry between him and Messi. And I don't know. He did exactly what he needed to do. He scored the goal, but it was very early in the game. If Roma managed to pull it back to 2-2, and then he managed to net the winner in the latter stages, then I might be a little bit more impressed. He just did exactly what we expect Ronaldo to do.
But what do you think of his hair?
Oh, his hair's horrific.
It's straight,
it has
isn't it?
Since he started wearing that Alice band.
And yeah, but he's evolved it now. So he's got a, what do you call it, a utensil in his hair, but it's no longer at the front. It's now holding together something of a man bun, which a man bun doesn't work with that hairstyle. I mean, look, we've got Ibrahimovic in Serie A now, so if Cristiano wants advice about how to pull off the man bun, I would suggest giving Zlatan a call, because he's been doing it for about, 15 years now.
You'd like to think that his close family and friends just say, no, it's not working for you. It's not a look. It's not a look that's good on you. Cut it off.
No, because people who say no don't get to stay around Cristiano. Isn't that how it works? He wants yes men, yes people.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, his ego might get a little bit bruised. But actually, do Roma deserve to lose this because they wore blue at home?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I didn't think we were going on to kits this week with 150-year kits for both Cagliari and Lazio. But yeah, as soon as I see that, it's like, well, yeah, okay. Start them on 1 point.
No, I've just started keeping the kit talk out of the running order so you don't know it's coming. So I get more of a sincere reaction from you. But the reason Juve are now top alone is because Inter were lucky to get a point. They welcomed Atalanta to the Stadio Giuseppe Meazza. They went 1-0 up very, very early. But Vito, Atalanta roared back, smashed them, and were very, very unlucky not to take all 3 points.
Yeah, they were very unlucky for two reasons. Well, one is that Luis Muriel missed a penalty and it was saved by Samir Handanovic. And the other reason is that Rafael Toloya was unlucky not to get a penalty himself in the first half.
Right, don't get me started on this. This is unbelievable, right? I know Inter Twitter was having a little meltdown saying, oh, Zapata pushed Lautaro. There's a video that shows Zapata pushes Toloy. It doesn't touch Lautaro. But if this happened 4 years ago, I could see, right, fine. It's easy to see how that would not be seen. What's the person operating VAR doing when that happens? Because we
having
saw
a coffee?
Yeah, right? But we saw quite quickly that, oh my God, Lautaro has just rugby tackled Toloy's leg. How has it not been given? And the referee designator, the guy who signs it all, Rizzoli, said today that, oh yeah, it was a mistake. But it shouldn't be happening, Kev. I don't understand how it happened, given that there's someone watching a screen.
Yeah, I didn't see the game live, but I watched the highlights and I saw the steals and it looked really obvious. And then it was even more shocking because so many players protested. At that point, you think that would initiate the officials going to VAR. I think if it had happened, somebody's picked it up and they've made a still of it, and it always makes it look a little bit worse. But the fact that the players protested directly to the officials at that time, and the ball went out of play after that, so it wasn't as if there wasn't a break in play. Just leaves you dumbfounded as to why it wasn't reviewed and a penalty was given.
It was one of those, when the ball dropped, it's a tap in. He's a yard out, effectively an open goal because Handanovic is on the ground to the left. And as you're kind of thinking, how has Toloy not done that? Something must have happened for him not to be able to kick the ball a yard. And then the replay comes out. I really liked there was a slow-mo shot of the protests, and Duvan Zapata clearly didn't see what happened because he sees that his teammates are protesting, and Zapata's just kind of like, and he gestures to say, oh, someone pushed someone, because that must be what happened. It was wonderful. Zapata just getting involved, not knowing what he's actually claiming for. But yeah, definitely should have been a penalty, and that was before Luis Muriel was on the pitch too. So Ruslan Malinovsky would have taken it, and I mean, you see the way he kicks a ball. No one's saving that, not even Samir Handanovic, who did save a penalty later on, because Luis Muriel, I think with 2 or 3 minutes to go, missed the penalty, but Handanovic saved it. It wasn't a great penalty in truth, but Handanovic, Vito, he saved, I think it's 35% or something of the penalties he's faced in Serie A. 30 of 70. It's mad. Absolute madness.
Yeah, he's got such an impressive rate, and I think, I think he's either equaled Pagliuca or he's eclipsed him now. So I think that's a testament to Handanovic and the incredible record that he's had with Inter, and also before that with Udinese. He's always been a superb shot stopper, and from penalties, there's hardly been anyone else better in Serie A, especially in recent years.
Yeah, it's a freakish record because obviously a goalkeeper isn't the favourite when there's a penalty happening. And Muriel's actually quite good at them too, which, I don't know. But Atalanta, they just hate penalties. They've missed, I think, 3 this season. There was a season recently where they missed like 7. Back in the 90s, there was one where they missed 10 of 11. They've always been terrible at penalties. Is there a curse on this club or something, Kev? It's got to be a curse, right?
Oh, curse, or they need to do a bit more practice. But I don't know. I saw your tweet saying that Gomez had been taken off them. Maybe they need to purchase a penalty kick specialist. Maybe they should grab Perotti from Roma.
Yeah, I'd have him. But Luis Muriel's supposed to be this. He's good at penalties. Malinovsky's good at penalties. Ilicic has missed a few. He's supposed to be good at penalties. I don't know. It's weird. But the fact that it's gone back for so long, it's something that goes beyond this current crop of players. It's really strange. Martin de Roon hit one last year, which was the best penalty I have ever seen for all the wrong reasons, because he hit it about 50 yards over the bar and wide at the same time. It probably would have gone for a throw. It was horrendous, but I like it. It's I think they should probably just start asking, can we have a corner or a free kick or something instead? I know penalties are good, but give us a free kick 30 yards out. We'd prefer that, but I don't know. Atalanta are good, aren't they? Mattia Caldara, by the way, he's back. He left Atalanta 18 months ago. Didn't play a single Serie A minute since, and he's returned. And Vito, I think he's going to do very, very well back in Bergamo.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. For our listeners there, have a read of Conor's piece. I'm going to read that too after this, so check it out. And from my point of view, I think it's excellent that he comes back. Although the defenders now at Atalanta are good, but Caldara is just another level. And under Gasparini, he was sensational. He does good things at the back, but I think what he does going forward, especially contributing at set pieces, I think Serie A defenders are going to have trouble containing him when he's fully fit, or once he's match fit. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Champions League. I think greater European exposure would be excellent for him. So I'd like to see him, provide one of those towering headers in the key Champions League game. Whether it be against Valencia or if Ladeo progress to the quarterfinals. I think, I can just imagine the excitement if he finds the back of the net in Europe.
Yeah, well, I did write about it, as Vito alluded to. So head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com and read that. But one of the things I mentioned is exactly what you said. He's so good at the back and going forward. And there was a game in February 2017 when Atalanta went down to the Stadio San Paolo to take on Napoli. Caldara put them ahead early enough with a header, got on the end of a loose ball after a corner. And then Frank Kessie got sent off in the second half. So Atalanta kind of backs to the walls at the San Paolo, 1-0 ahead, holding on for dear life. And Caldara intercepted a Napoli attack. And rather than just, look for the big man Patania up front and boot the ball at him and hope it sticks, I think was it Milik closing him down, or it might have been Zielinski? He dinked it over his head, gave the ball to Spinazzola. Spinazzola bombed forward, and Caldara just goes with them. Then once they arrive towards the box, Spinazzola dinks it back to Caldara on the edge of the box, and he volleys it. I mean, past Pepe Reina, 2-0, goal, done. He's scored twice, and they've beaten Napoli away. Now, that kind of sums up exactly what he is. He's technically brilliant. He can score, and he's so calm at the back. And it's that calmness that I think is going to bring a lot to Atalanta, because Palomino and Toloi, good servants, good defenders, but they can be absolutely headless. And since Caldara has left, I think Berat Jimshiti has been the most consistent and most regularly impressive defender, although he does it quietly. I don't know why people don't really speak about him enough, and I'm guilty of that as well. But Caldara's return to Atalanta is going to be huge. But it's quite nice, Kev, from a Bergamasco perspective, for a player to leave Atalanta to take a step forward with his career, be shipped from Juve to Milan, and then go from Milan to Atalanta, and that to be a step up to play in the Champions League. It's a sign of the times.
I saw the Twitter outrage, Connor. In your piece, you said step forward, not step up. I'll support you in step forward. I don't know if I'll support you in step up.
How is it not a step up? When did Milan last finish ahead of Atalanta in Serie A?
Okay. For the moment, it's a step up, but yeah,
because Milan's future
career will take step forward. I'm trying to be diplomatic.
Have you seen AC Milan, Kev? I mean, over the last decade.
Oh no, yeah, we've spoke at length on them being an absolute mess, and they've resorted to just buying back old players that will take some headlines away from them, and
they quite charitably took someone Kier off us as well, off Atalanta, who couldn't get a look in at Atalanta. Milan will have them. That's nice. Thanks for that. Atalanta have upgraded. Caldara's upgraded. But in all seriousness, I do think Kier's a good defender. And I was quite happy when Atalanta signed him. So I wish him well. But yeah, anyway, that's enough. They already hate me. I don't know why I did that. They already hate me. I can just see them now. My Twitter notifications might hurt a little bit this week. But what's next? Lazio next. What?
Can we pause 1 second on Inter?
If you want.
Well, no, we've just gushed over Atalanta's performance.
Do you want to dissect Inter's problems?
Well, no, not really, but just to say that Inter obviously have lost their, the not advantage, but being keeping pace with Juve at the weekend, and lots of people saw that as them dropping points, and I think it does a bit of a disservice to who they were playing. With Atalanta being so strong in Serie A as they have been over the last couple of years, and I think it's just worth noting that Inter didn't necessarily throw anything away against this weekend, because there will be tougher tests to come for Juve as well. For people to think that the title race is suddenly over and we're about to get onto Lazio, we're also going really, really strong. I think anybody listening to this that doesn't watch Serie A regularly shouldn't get too despondent that this is the end of the title race.
Is it not worth, on that note though, is it not worth pointing out that Inter were at home against Atalanta? They went 1-0 up inside a few minutes, whereas Juve had to go to Bergamo. Juve went 1-0 down with a little over half an hour left. Juve won 3-1.
Oh no, absolutely, against the same opposition, but they will go to, they will still go to Torino, which is a local rival for them, which wouldn't necessarily be a big rival for Inter. You still got there's still lots of time left in this Serie A for there to be a race on. Rather than everyone seemingly thinking, I just saw a lot on social media of this almost being that's it. Juve have taken over again. They're now 2 points ahead, and that's going to be the end of it. And I just don't think that's the case.
I'm sorry, I do actually think it probably, not that it's the end of it, but I think it's quite damning. Juve to be top, having not been that great all season. They've still not really adapted to what Sarri wants them to do, but they're still top. And I don't know, any given week, I feel like Inter are still more likely to drop points than Juve are. Maybe it's just because I've been conditioned to think that way over the last 8 seasons, but no, I think the Scudetto is Juve's again.
Maybe I'm just defending my prediction.
I think you are, because haven't Inter been the winter champions like the last 2 seasons? They've been winter champions quite a lot recently. They've been top at this point of the season quite a lot recently. They were top at this point under Spalletti, and was it Mancini as well who had them as winter champions? And second half of the season they just fold. So I don't think the sign of what Conte has done is in the first half of the season. We'll see in March if Inter are still up there. Well then, okay, fine. But I don't know. Vito, anything to add?
Well, where Inter's concerned, I think once again it's just a show that the midfield depth is concerning. One particular player I want to point out is Stefano Sensi. At the start of the season, he was absolutely sensational. Covered a lot of ground. It was important to the attacking play with his passing. He basically shoot on sight and chip in with a few goals. But I think now it looks like he's not fully match fit. So he might be able to keep the simple pass and play simple options. But I don't think he's offering the same dynamicism as he did earlier in the season before he got injured. If he can improve, then maybe there's some hope. But if you're going to keep relying on Matthias Vecino and Roberto Gagliardini, I think that's going to be detrimental for the Nerazzurri's total hopes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Anyway, Lazio, they're fun. Do you know, I had arranged for Alistair Mackenzie to make an appearance on this podcast in light of what Lazio did, but I think he must still be out, because I've not heard from him in 2 days. Poor Alistair. I worry for his health and safety. So, Alistair, drop me a message when you hear this, please, because I'm quite concerned for your safety down there in Rome. But they won again. They beat Napoli 1-0. They left it late again. But as I said last week, nobody scores more late goals than Lazio and Ciro Immobile. Kev, he had a helping hand or two from Ospina and then Giovanni Di Lorenzo. But, I mean, they just keep finding a way to win, don't they?
Yeah, Ospina it was every reason on show as to why Arsenal got rid of him, and probably other teams have let him move on as well. What he was attempting, I have no idea. Just play the ball out. I thought they were a little bit. I think from one angle, actually, it looks like the ball is definitely going in. But the way that the defender trying to clear the ball strikes it into the net, I thought, well, give it to him for the effort alone.
It's unbelievable.
Let Chiro have his goal.
Because the ball is going in, but I mean, Di Lorenzo's a professional footballer. Why can't he kick the ball properly in that position? If a ball comes to him like that anywhere else on the pitch, he controls it and plays a pass. Does he just panic because of where he is?
Absolutely, because I think he wasn't under any immediate pressure. There were players around, but he could have just stopped the ball. Just take a controlled touch rather than just trying to fracture it out of the Stadio Olimpico.
Or even side foot it back in that general direction and then deal with the next rebound. But it's funny because he absolutely leathers it. He's about, half a yard off his line, and he just thumps it into the goal. It's amazing. If you've not seen it, I don't know what you're listening to the podcast, but if you haven't, go watch it. But Vito, one of the things I wanted to speak to Alistair about was the fact that he wrote after this game that Lazio smashed teams. They just about beat teams. They beat teams late after wearing them down. They're winning in different ways. And that is a sign of a team who can go really, really far. And given they've not got any European football, they've only got Serie A to focus on. I mean, sky's the limit.
There are a lot of things that are going in their favour now. And also, because of the fact that they are winning in different ways, that's probably one of the best things about teams who can win the Scudetto in Serie A. I mean, obviously, Juve have done it for the last 8 years, but even before that, usually teams have to have those extra methods or more than just one plan to secure the title. Napoli, they tried with a plan A under Sarri for many years, and it was a fantastic plan A, but there wasn't much of a plan B going on, and the lack of depth as well as that sort of lack of tactical variation or diversity, if you like, I think that counted against them. This team under Inzaghi's been together for a few years. They've made a few worthwhile additions as well. And if they can, change things up or adapt to different circumstances, it's like they can beat anyone any given day. Like I said a few times, I think it's only if they suffer some really serious injuries to key players. That's why I think they could have a slip.
Yeah, Kev, you look at the squad, it's no different from last season's Lazio. You could argue that under Simone Inzaghi, they've actually lost some of their better players over the years, and this is the best team we've seen from them. Is it just the process of time has made these players understand each other better and now they're performing better as a team, or what? Because I don't see any reason why they're so much better this season than last, but the proof's there, they are.
Yeah, they've certainly improved. I think there's a lot to be said for maintaining a squad of players, even if you have a few departures. Sometimes too many arrivals can cause more harm than actually just sticking with what you've got and feeling that they can add 10-15% to their game and actually sort of see them through that improvement process. I don't want to say they've been lucky, but they've won 10 in a row now. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm thinking about something that I read, I'm sure.
Correct.
And Jakosha had a great game on Saturday evening. He made a number of saves from Napoli players. So sort of then grinding those results out, I think builds that confidence and then adds to that improvement. And my concern would be rather if they were to lose a game and if that was to snowball. But like you said a moment ago, without the European football, if you've got that sort of weeks period between maybe a defeat, you've got time to recover your thoughts, if anything else, and actually regroup and then look to the next game, because they've got the Rome derby coming up in 2 weeks' time, which will be a test of if they can keep this winning run going. Kind of ignoring whoever they've got this week because it's not in front of me.
You love an overly optimistic prediction. Where are Lazio finishing this season?
Oddly enough, although I'm trying to defend my prediction of Inter win the league, I see
they'll win the league?
I see the I think they could overtake them if they can. Not necessarily, not going to keep their winning run going indefinitely, but if they can continue like this and Inter maybe have a few more setbacks, they might even finish second this year. Well, I think the top three now get within the Champions League places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the top three are nailed on to finish as the top three in whatever order. Lazio do play the free scorers of this weekend in Serie A. They play Sampdoria next week, so that'll be a test for them down in Rome. But I mean, they're playing in Rome until February because obviously they've got the derby, which is technically an away game, I think. But it's worked out quite nicely for them. They could be in a very, very strong place come mid-February, and then who knows what happens. It's going to be fun anyway. That's for sure. Moving on. Where was I tonight? I was at Parma. Parma Lecce. Parma won 2-0, and it was coming. It was a difficult first half. They struggled to break Lecce down, despite having all of the ball. Lecce had maybe 5 minutes where they were allowed to leave their half. But other than that, Parma bossed them. And Vito, I think Parma are actually quite a good side, and I don't think anyone gives them enough credit for it.
Parma have more or less slid under the radar. I suppose we probably give them a little bit of praise, but I think in general they're a much maligned side, and maybe it's also because they don't have the star names that they had in the 90s or even some of the stars they had in the 2000s. A lot of them are more or less players that have Serie A experience, but they're not greats of the game. And then there are a few players that have come up the divisions with Parma since they reformed. They're really well drilled side under Roberto D'Aversa too, and I think he's an important part of getting the best out of the squad at his disposal. And now in January with some midfield reinforcements, they might be able to sustain a mid-table finish.
Do you know what? I was looking at their bench tonight, and they've had their injury problems this season. They played most of the season without a striker. So the midfielders, they were basically 6 in the team. But on the bench tonight, it was quite strong. They had Cornelius, who came on and scored. Gaston Brugman, who I've been very impressed with this season. Scozzarella, who was important for them last season. Gervinho was on the bench. I mean, it was quite good, as well as Dermaku at the back. Their bench is solid for the first time. They've quite quietly gone about building a decent squad that could finish mid-table in Serie A for a couple of seasons, and then with a couple of additions, do that little bit more. Obviously, losing Kulusevski in the summer is going to be huge, but while he's there, enjoy him for all he's worth, because they're not going to have another player like that, you would imagine, for a while. But Kev, they're good, and I think it was very, very important for them this week to keep a clean sheet after what happened to them last week, so uncharacteristically, to get thumped 5-0 at Atalanta. To keep a clean sheet this weekend against Lecce was key, and they did it.
Yeah, they've got that sort of resolute defensive resolve now in place. I saw the tears from you over Christmas while I was sipping a beer on a sunny beach over Kulusevski going, and I kind of thought he was gone from now. And then when I realised that he'd actually, they've retained him for the rest of the season, is a massive plus. And I think when we're talking about where Lazio are going to finish, I can't see the top 5 changing now, but the league's almost splitting into those three pockets now of teams that are going to be challenging for Champions League, then your middle group and your relegation zone, and Parma are in that sort of that group in the middle area now that are playing for like one European place. And the way Cagliari are still falling down, if Parma can continue to stop the ball going in one end and get those strikers back, then they can maybe look at pinching 6th.
Yeah, my tears were because I did actually initially think Kulusevski was gone from now, and I wasn't angry, Kev. I was just disappointed with him because I thought he was more intelligent than that, and I've been proven right. He was more intelligent than to leave now. But yeah, I completely agree with that. It should, a point of note, a point of caution perhaps, is that they were in a very similar position last season, I remember. And then from about January to April, they just kind of had their feet up. And then all of a sudden they were in a relegation battle again and were panicking. But one thing that stands to them is D'Aversa, before this game in his press conference, said, look, this is a relegation fight. Make no mistakes about it. And I was kind of thinking, Parma are now 7th. I don't see how this is a relegation fight, but he's keeping their heads on. They are, 14 points clear of relegation. So they'll be okay. You would just hope they can continue this form, because that 6th spot is definitely up for grabs. Milan should improve. They should. Napoli should improve. And those guys are just, 4 points behind them. So 4, 5. No, 3, 4. I can't count. 3 and 4 points behind them, respectively. So they're going to have to keep it up. But I don't know. I quite fancy it. I think they're good, especially if they can keep their players fit. It's so important for them. Cornelius and Roberto Inglese need to be playing for this team to function properly, because when Kučka plays up top, he does a job, but it's not his position. He obviously can't do it as well as those guys can, and they do miss that point of reference when they need it. I thought Inglese, given that he hadn't started a game for I think 3 months before tonight, I thought he did very well. He put himself about, made some mistakes, fine, but he's back and he did well. And then Cornelius to come on and get the goal is very, very important for them. Vito, have you got a prediction for Parma?
Ooh. Look, at this stage, not sure about how high they'll finish, but I'll say I don't think they'll finish lower than 10th.
I'm sure they would snatch that out of your hands. But they signed Jasmine Kurtic as well. A big signing, because he was effective for Atalanta in the year they got into the Europa League and went to Spal, did okay. Hasn't played too much this season, but I think he'll do well. He started in the midfield 3 today, which I thought was quite curious, given that Kučka is a midfielder and Kurtic likes to play where Kučka was playing today. So I would imagine over time that will change. Kučka will probably drop back into the midfield, and Kurtic, if he's going to be starting every week, will be as part of the two, alongside Kulusevski behind Bobby English or the big Danish man. I've forgotten his name. Andreas Cornelius. I'd imagine that's where he will play going forward. Anyway, all of AC Milan's problems are solved, Kev, because they beat Cagliari 2-0. Zlatan Ibrahimovic scored, and he's the best player in the world, and they're going to win Serie A next season.
Yeah, that's what the Milan fans would like to believe, but I think even the most hardened Milan fan would accept that this is kind of papering over the cracks, and maybe one of those signings. I know obviously you spoke about this last week when he came back, but one of those signings that is more for the PR machine than it is for the team. I kind of, as obviously he's aging. He's still got that quality that Zlatan will probably always have in those legs, but I just see moves like this as a bit of a step backwards when you're trying to find. You know, we've spoken for weeks and weeks and weeks about the lack of quality throughout the squad. So maybe you need to build a team that is better than the sum of its parts, and this almost just revolves back to the superstar. There was one of the players, I think it might have been Sammy Castelleo, who said, we've got a new tactic, which is just give the ball to Zlatan and let him do everything. And that's exactly not what I'd want to be hearing from some of my players. Almost taken down tools now because, the big Swedes turned up. Yep. Sorry, that's turned into a bit of a rant, but it's, I think it's with good intention.
No, I said that last week as well. It very much seemed like that was a tactic, because Ibra came on and they just all thought, put the ball at his feet and let him do something. He's 38 years old. He's not. Give him the ball in the box and he'll score. Sure. It's kind of like what Robbie Keane became at the end of his career. He couldn't do anything, but if the ball happened to come to him, he can score goals. And I think, as well as the PR side of it, he's quite useful for the likes of Rafael Leao. For Piontek too, if Piontek stays, they can learn a lot from him, and you would hope that he'll be used wisely. I love the I didn't mention this last week, but the hashtag is back, IZ back, and that doesn't work, right? As an English thing, is back doesn't work, but that's clearly they've just translated it badly because they never use the subject in Italian. So that as an Italian thing actually would work. But in English, you need to say, he is back, and then it's fine. But because Italians don't do that, they've obviously just not done it in English, and it's terrible. But it's funny because all of the players are like Zlatan's little lapdogs now. I saw Teo Hernandez, apparently the best left back in Serie A, was tweeting with that, just the hashtag is back, and I was, oh, this is pathetic. It's unbelievable. But I don't know, I love Ibrahimovic. So it is nice to have him in Serie A. But Vito, it's all gone wrong for Cagliari. Just gone so terribly wrong.
They've lost 4 games in a row now, and look, last week I talked about the quality of the opposition that they played, but at the moment it doesn't look like Rolando Maran and his squad can turn it around. The way they played against AC Milan, they looked more lethargic than usual, and they weren't as energetic as they had been in previous games. They had a lot of trouble just trying to get the ball into the opposition half. And look, I think Milan overall didn't play a bad game. It was one of the better performances of the season. But Cagliari don't look anywhere as impressive as they were until last month. So unfortunately, it's one of those things with smaller sides. They have a good run, but in the second half of the season, they just tend to drop off. And the last month is probably a sign that they will continue dropping, unfortunately.
Well, Kev must have seen what I was about to ask next because he just dropped out of the conversation. We're going to move on to Sampdoria, but I want to wait to see if he returns before we do that because obviously Fabio Quagliarella scored a couple of goals, Vito.
Yes.
So before we do that, we'll just go briefly to Torino-Bologna because Torino won 1-0. And after what was a slow start to the season for them, things are starting to fall into place quite nicely for them.
I suppose that with the early start to the season that they had, that was perhaps a bit troubling for them and they weren't getting the balance right. I must admit that I probably underestimated Wolves in the Europa League too because they've done well in the Premier League. But I think Torino now, this is more or less third level without having to balance European football as well. And in recent weeks, I've seen Mazzarri field the team a bit better. I think the 3-4-2-1 that he's using with Belotti up front, and then you have Alex Berenguer and Simone Verdi behind him. I think that's an ideal setup going forward for the Granata.
Yeah, you would think so. That they're very much part of that middle group that Kev was talking about earlier. So who knows? They might even fancy themselves to make a push for that 6th European place. Talk then next about Fiorentina Spal. This was the first game of the weekend that I went to, and I'm not exaggerating to say this is the worst game I've seen this season. Since I moved to Italy, I can remember maybe one game that was as bad as this. It was Parma Frosinone last season. It was 0-0 in Parma, and it was, oh my god awful. But this was terrible. It got to the point where the local journalists were laughing at everything Fiorentina did because it was just so terrible. It's an absolute mess there, but they got the 3 points. Giuseppe Iacchini is now unbeaten in his first 2 games. The first time a Fiorentina coach has done that since 2012. But they're a disaster, and this win, if it's going to do anything, it's only going to paper over cracks for them because they've still got problems there, Vito.
It still looks like that the squad they have is not a balanced one, and they're just a collection of odd bits and pieces, to be honest. Montella clearly failed with the football he tried to play, and Iacchini, he's a pragmatist and he's that so-called firefighter coach. So I think at the moment, results are really the priority because they've really had the share of on-field stability, but even off-field until Commisso came in, there was always that criticism of lack of ambition. So if Iacchini can produce more results, I think that will be ideal in the short term, but long term, there doesn't seem to be much optimism as yet.
Oh, they're god-awful. They're really, really awful. Kev, can you guess who we're talking about?
Fiorentina.
Yes, correct. Very good answer. No, they're abysmal.
I noticed they waited for me to go on holiday before they sacked Montella.
Yeah, they did. Literally, what, like a week after you jetted off?
Not long.
No, not long at all. But they've got Yakini in there, so all of their problems are solved. No, they're still bad. Spal shouldn't have lost this game. They should not have lost this game, but they did, and they lost against a terrible, terrible team. But you know what? I still reckon Spal will finish ahead of Fiorentina in the Serie A table this season. Vito, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say if only Velotti managed to score with that solo run. He needs to improve his chipping technique. Maybe watch a bit of Francesco Totti clips. And
do you know what, though?
Add a few wonder goals.
That was another scandalous decision because that was a corner all day long and the referee gave a goal kick. I don't understand how. It was quite clearly a touch from Dragowski, but I don't know. Kev, you went all wide-eyed there. Spal are only 9 points behind Fiorentina. They're definitely going to finish above them. But no, it's not looking good for Spal. The whole team were on my train back, actually.
Apart from Catania.
Well, he might have been there, but a couple of the guys had passed me before I realised who it was. You know, when you just you notice like an atmosphere change where you are. And I noticed that people were just staring.
Time I walk into a room.
People are, he's back. But no, then when I looked up, I saw Etric Berisha was the first person I clocked. And then I was looking out for Patania because I wanted to talk to him because the players were like saying bits to people that were walking by. And I was like, oh, where's the big teddy bear? But he was nowhere to be seen, sadly. And Semplici didn't look best pleased either. So it was probably best that he wasn't there. He might have hit me or something. And then my love would have quickly faded for the big man. But it wasn't the big... Kev, before you ran away on us, I think you saw where we were going next. Because are you nervous? Because Fabio Quagliarella is now on 5 Serie A goals for the season. So he's only, 15 behind Ciro Immobile? He's going to win the Capocannoniere race.
I will happily bet you a drink or two that he doesn't get 20.
Right, he's not going to get 20. But let's take this seriously. There are 19 rounds left. I think Fabio Quagliarella will finish the Serie A season with 13 goals minimum. Too long a pause. Come on, speak.
Well, I can't. I was thinking he'll get 1 in 2 top. You're gonna hit that.
Right.
Hit that right on.
If I say 15 goals, will you put a beer on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Quagliarella scoring at least 15 goals this season.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Anything less, you buy me.
See you in the summer, mate. See you in the summer, and you'll be buying me 15 beers, 1 for every goal. There's a bet. However many goals he scores, you buy me that number of beers. But anyway, we'll let Vito talk, shall we? Because Sampdoria won 5-1, and they did it against Brescia. So, Vito, you must be pleased, because a few months ago you wouldn't have seen this happening.
Absolutely not. Just based on the scoreline alone, you'd think this was something of the Marco Giampaolo era. And with Claudio Ranieri's sides in general, they're generally not very high scoring, especially after the way we've played, both under Di Francesco and Ranieri. To score 5 was something out of the ordinary, but we had no McCauley in defence. Fabio De Paoli and Gaston Ramirez came off injured early in that AC Milan game last week. So after Jean Chancellor scored early on and then to respond with 5 like that, very satisfied with the results. And in terms of the performance, it wasn't, slick or elegant like in the Giampaolo days, but there's that typical Claudio Ranieri-esque fight in the team that you see from his previous sides. And we played with a sense of directness, energy, and determination. So as a team, I thought was fantastic in that aspect. And also, there were quite a few good individual performances. Quagliarella, obviously, with his brace, but Jakub Jankto, the Czech midfielder, was involved in 4 of the 5 goals. Morten Torsby ran his socks off all day, and Carol Linetti, he too also had a great performance in midfield, was involved in both goals in the first half, and it was someone that may not have the flair of conventional attacking midfielders, and he's a natural box-to-box midfielder, but he did give us a lot of impetus and drive going forward, and it didn't matter if he was coming down the middle or going through the wings. I think he was very decisive for us as well.
Are your relegation concerns starting to ease a little bit now? Because you're 5 points clear of Genoa, 4 ahead of Lecce, and very much on the up. I mean, Sampdoria look a much better team than they did.
I'm not entirely convinced as yet. The only reason is that next week we have Lazio in Rome, and we've had some absolutely shocking results against them recently. So I do believe, though, with Ranieri, he'll probably make the team play more defensively than we did in our previous meetings in Rome. So perhaps, also against one of his old rivals, considering he was a Roma coach and a former Roma player. So maybe we will do well against Aquila. But, it's just the old cliche. I'm just taking it one game at a time. And, of course, even on the field, there are still a bit of flaws, especially with Manolo Gabbiadini. I thought last 2 rounds he's been terrible with his shooting. And then you get Gianluca Caprari, came back from suspension, and he scored in less than 2 minutes. So, yeah, I think Gabbiadini needs to step up again.
Yeah, it probably takes a bit of time out of the team. Caprari and Quagliarella more than good enough to lead the line for a bit while Gabbiadini sorts himself out, you'd imagine. Udinese beat Sassuolo 3-0. Yeah, that happened. And Verona beat Genoa 2-1. Kev, I'll go to you. Genoa are in the bottom 3. They don't look like they're getting out of it anytime soon.
No, absolutely. It's unlike their Genovese neighbours. It looks like they're going to struggle continuously for the rest of this season. Even I only realised when watching the game that they dragged Mattia Perin back from Juventus. It said with an option to buy, which I can't see happening if Genoa go down. But he did have quite a solid early display. He sort of kept them in it under pressure from Verona. But I just don't think that will be enough. They need to find more goals at the other end as well, also trying to stop them going in.
I was absolutely shocked that he was still at Juve because obviously they brought Buffon back, and I just assumed Perin had gone somewhere else and I'd missed it or something. But no, he was still just there. I wonder what he's been doing.
Absolutely. If that's not the signal to leave when the club you're at, has put some hope in you being their new goalkeeper, then reverts back to their 41-year-old legend. I would have thought he would have gone as soon as Buffon had arrived, but he's had his injury troubles, hasn't he?
Yeah, their 41-year-old legend, who, it's worth saying, hasn't actually been that good for 2 or 3 years. He makes a lot of mistakes now, or does a lot of things that he would never have done, or doesn't do things that he would have done previously. But anyway, Perin, one of the better goalkeepers Italy have available to them when he's playing regularly, so you would hope he'll get back to his best there, even if it means Genoa's results improve. I'm sorry, Vito. We've come to the end, guys. We've gone on for quite a while. I heard that groan, Mr. Doria. But we have come to an end. Thank you all for listening. Head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com. As always, read everything we do. Coppa Italia games are being played this week. Fiorentina play Atalanta at home on Wednesday at, guess what time, Kev? On a Wednesday during a working week.
I've seen this because it's good for me. Because because I have a third screen in my office, and I can pop this on at 2 p.m. I think UK time, and then I can watch the next game after it, and then I can watch the next game after that when I get home. So I think it's 3 p.m. local time.
It is 3 p.m. Yeah.
So perfect for me.
Napoli play Perugia on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Lazio Cremonese at 6. Inter Cagliari at 8:45. And then on Wednesday, we've got Fiorentina Atalanta at 3 o'clock. That's a disgrace. Milan Spal at 6 is bad enough. And then Juventus Udinese at 8:45. And then they've invented a kickoff time for the game here in Parma on Thursday night. 9:15 kickoff. I don't quite get. That's going to be so cold. It was cold tonight, and this is half an hour later. I'm not looking forward to that, but I'll be there anyway.
We just had that in the UK, actually.
Which?
The 9:15 for Amazon Prime. I don't know what market they were going for, but that was the first time we had it in the UK this season.
Maybe it's something along those lines. I've not looked into the coverage of the Coppa Italia this season, but I'll check it out. All right. Head over to the website, read everything we do, read my feature about Mattia Caldara, and I'm going to... I have something for you to write, Kev, but I've completely forgotten it. Anyway, goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.
Fuck.
Bye.
What happened to your voice?